Good morning, students. Today we will revise the chapter which is included for Monday's examination. In chapter 3 of class 9 civics, we learned about how the representatives are elected. The chapter begins with the topic of why elections are necessary and useful in a democracy. Then it further explains how electoral competition among parties serves the people. The basic idea that this chapter tries to convey is to distinguish democratic elections from non-democratic elections. Now let's analyze the chapter in detail, explaining each and every subheadings. The first subheading is explaining about why do we need elections. Elections take place regularly in any democracy. There are more than 100 countries in the world in which elections take place to choose people's representatives. The mechanism by which people can choose their representatives at regular intervals and change them whenever they want is called election. In election, the voters make many choices. They can choose who will make laws for them. They can choose who will form the government and take major decisions. They can choose the party whose policies will guide the government and lawmaking. Next, we discussed about what makes an election democratic. Minimum conditions of a democratic election included the following points. The first and the foremost is everyone should be able to choose their own representative. Parties and candidates should be free to contest elections and should offer some real choice to the voters. The third point is elections must be held regularly after every 5 years. Fourth point is the candidate preferred by the people should get elected. And the last point is election should be conducted in a free and fair manner where people can choose as they really wish. Then we learned the topic, is it good to have a political competition? Elections are all about political competition. This competition takes various forms. At the constituency level, it takes the form of competition among several candidates. Here are a few reasons that support political competition as being good for people. Regular electoral competition provides incentives to political parties and leaders. Political parties know that if they raise issues that people want to be raised, their popularity and chances of victory will increase in the next elections. On the contrary, if they fail to satisfy the voters with their work, they will not be able to win again. If a political party is motivated only by the desire to be in power, despite that, it will be forced to serve the people. Next, we discussed about what is our election system. Elections are held in India in Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha, the assembly election regularly after every 5 years. After 5 years, the term of all the elected representatives comes to an end. Elections held in all constituencies at the same time, either on the same day or within a few days, is called a general election. Sometimes elections are held only for one constituency to fill the vacancy caused by the death or resignation of a member. This is called a by-election. Next, we learned about electoral constituency. What do you mean by electoral constituency? India is divided into different areas for the purpose of elections. These areas are called electoral constituencies. The voters who live in an area elect one representative. For Lok Sabha elections, India is divided into 543 constituencies. The representative elected from each constituency is called a member of parliament or an MP. Each state is divided into a specific number of assembly constituencies. In this case, the elected representative is called the member of legislative assembly or an MLA. Each parliamentary constituency has within it several assembly constituencies. The same principle applies for panchayat and municipal elections. Each village or town is divided into several wards that are like constituencies. Each ward elects one member of the village or the urban local body. Sometimes these constituencies are counted as seats, for each constituency represents one seat in the assembly. Next, we learned about the reserved constituencies. Reserved constituencies means some constituencies are reserved for people who belong to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. In the Lok Sabha, 84 seats are reserved for the scheduled caste and 47 seats for the scheduled tribe. In scheduled caste reserved constituency, only someone who belongs to the scheduled caste can stand for election. Only those belonging to the scheduled tribes can conduct an election from a constituency reserved for scheduled tribe. In many times, seats in rural and urban, rural means here panchayat and urban means municipalities and corporations, and local bodies are now reserved for other backward classes and women candidates as well. Next, we discussed about the voters list. In a democratic election, the list of those who are eligible to vote is prepared much before the election and given to everyone, which is officially called the electoral roll, and it is commonly known as the voters list. It is the responsibility of the government to get the names of all the eligible voters put on the voters list. The voters are required to carry election photo identity card when they go out to vote, so that no one can vote for someone else. But the card is not yet compulsory for voting, as voters can show many other proofs of identity like the ration card or the driving license. Then we learned about the criteria of the nomination of the candidates. Anyone who can be a voter can also become a candidate in elections. The candidate should be a minimum of 25 years of age. Every person who wishes to contest an election has to fill a nomination form and give some money as security deposit. The candidate has to make a legal declaration giving full details of serious criminal cases pending against the candidate, details of the assets and liabilities of the candidate and his or her family, and educational qualification of the candidate. This information is made available to the public so that voters can make their decision on the basis of the information provided by the candidates. Next, we learned about the election campaign. The election campaigns are conducted to have a free and open discussion about who is better, who is a better representative, and in turn, which party will make a better government. In India, election campaigns take place for a two-week period between the announcement of the final list of candidates and the date of polling. During this period, the candidates contact their voters, political leaders, and address election meetings, and political parties mobilize their supporters. Some of the successful slogans given by different political parties in various elections are "Save democracy," "Land to the tillers," "Protect the self-respect of the Telugus," and so on. According to India's election law, no party or candidate can bribe or threaten voters, appeal to them in the name of caste or religion, use government resources for election campaign, spend more than 25 lakhs in a constituency for a Lok Sabha election, or 10 lakh in a constituency in an assembly election. If any political party does so, their election can be rejected by the court. In addition to the laws, all the political parties in our country has agreed to model code of conduct for election campaigns. According to this, no party or candidate can use any place of worship for election propaganda. Use government vehicles, aircraft, and officials for elections. Once elections are announced, ministers shall not lay foundation stones of any projects or take any big policy decisions or make any promises of providing public facilities. Next, we learned about polling and counting of votes. The day when the voters cast or poll their votes is called the election day. The voting is done in the following manner. Every person whose name is on the voters list can go to a nearby polling booth. Once the voter goes inside the booth, the election officials identify her and put a mark on her his or her finger and allow her to cast her vote. An agent of each candidate is allowed to sit inside the polling booth and ensure that the voting takes place in a fair way. A ballot paper is a sheet of paper on which the names of the contesting candidates along with the party names and symbols are listed. The ballot paper was used earlier. Nowadays, we are using EVMs, electronic voting machines, are used to record votes. The machine, EVMs means the machines shows the name of the candidates and the party symbols. The voter has to just press the button against the name of the candidate he or she wants to give his or her vote. Once the polling is over, all the EVMs are sealed and taken to a secured place. A few days later, all the EVMs are opened and the votes secured by each candidate are counted. The candidate who secured the highest number of votes from a constituency is declared as elected. And next, we learned about what makes election in India democratic. Here we learned about the Independent Election Commission. In India, elections are conducted by the Election Commission. The Chief Election Commission is appointed by the President of India. Election Commission is independent and has a wide range of powers, which are: Election Commission takes decisions on every aspect of the conduct and control of elections, right from the announcement of elections till the declaration of results. Second point is it implements the code of conduct and punishes any candidate or party that violates it. During the election period, the Election Commission can order the government to follow some guidelines to prevent the use and misuse of governmental power to enhance its chances to win elections or to transfer some government officials. And the last point we discussed here is when on election duty, the government officers work under the control of the Election Commission and not under the control of government. Then we discussed about popular participation. The quality of the election process can also be checked by seeing the participation of people. People's participation in the election is measured by voter turnout figures. Turnout indicates the percentage of eligible voters who actually cast their vote. In India, the poor, illiterate, and underprivileged peoples vote in larger proportion as compared to the rich and the privileged sections. Common people in India feel that through elections, they can bring pressure on political parties to adopt policies and programs favorable to them. The interest of voters in election related activities has been increasing over the years. Then we learned about the acceptance of election outcome. One final test to the free and fair election is the outcome of the election. The ruling parties routinely lose elections in India, both at the national and at the state level. In the US, an incumbent or sitting elected representatives rarely loses an election. In India, about half of the sitting MPs or MLAs lose elections. Candidates who are known to have spent a lot of money on buying votes and those with non-criminal connections often lose elections. Barring very few disputed elections, the electoral outcomes are usually accepted as people's verdict by the defeated party. And finally, we learned about the challenges of free and fair elections. Elections in India are basically free and fair. Sometimes this may not be true for every constituency. There are many limitations and challenges to Indian elections. These include, the first point is, candidates and parties with a lot of money enjoy a big and unfair advantage over small parties. The second point is, candidates with criminal connections have been able to push others out of the electoral race and to secure a ticket from major parties. The third point is, tickets are distributed to relatives from their families. The fourth point is, elections offer little choice to ordinary citizens as major parties are quite similar to each other, both in policies and practice. And the last point is, smaller parties and independent candidates suffer a huge disadvantage compared to bigger parties. By this, we concluded the revision of the chapter, the summary of the chapter, Electoral Politics. Thank you, students. Have a good day ahead.